Devlin, Untamed. The platform.
Welcome to the podcast, people. Mondays. You got to love Mondays. So much sport going on over the weekend. How do you squeeze it all into a highlights package? Well, we'll do our best for you, Martin Devlin, Lachlan War. Name of our show, iOS. It's only sport. We air it live on the platform 1 till 4 every afternoon. What's the platform? Download the app. The Platform NZ. It's all there. Subscribe to Platform Plus. You can go back and listen to the whole 3 hours at your leisure. But if you don't have that amount of time available, here it is. In a highlights package for you, we got Super Rugby, the not-so-super round in Melbourne. Great games. Shame about the very average crowds. Below average, if you're being really honest. The Big Moan Monday's all about that. Come on, rugby. Open your eyes. The Emperor's got no clothes on. We're all seeing it, aren't we? Get this thing out of Melbourne. The players deserve better. Maybe the crowd was all in Vegas for the opening 2 matches of NRL. Vegas, the big show. We're all over that on the podcast as well. The Black Caps do what we do when it's Aussie. We bottle it, we blow it, we crap the bed. Why is that? We play worse against them than every other country we play cricket against. Why is that? Tell me it's not in the mind. I guess you got to read the pitch right first, though. That would have helped, wouldn't it? The Premier League rolls on. F1 looks like a repeat of last year and the year before that. And just another Max Verstappen procession. We got on-field racial slurs to deal with. Red cards in rugby. Crazy ends in the EPL. And kick it all off the same way every single day. Winners and losers from the weekend. Let's go through the list. Not everyone can make it, but how do they rate? Sport. You gotta love it, mate. Tablets in hand, I say gather my flock. It is time for a sermon. So who did win and lose from the weekend in sport? Let's go to the mountaintop.
We live in an amazing, amazing world, and it's wasted on the crappiest generation of just spoiled idiots.
Winners and losers in no particular order. Where do you start? I'm going to start with the Waratahs winners. The upset of the Super Rugby round. Who saw that one coming? Maybe the Aussie teams will be competitive after all. That's the result the competition needed. Great for everyone except the Crusaders fans. Loser. The so-called Super Round. The rugby equivalent of the Magic Round. Melbourne doesn't care about Super Rugby. What more evidence does anyone need? It's embarrassing to see all those empty seats and such a waste of time, effort. Great rugby, but they got to kill this idea of taking it there because there is no one there who does care. Winner, MP, Moana Pacifica, up and running already. It took till the final round last year for them to win just one game. Awesome result for the fledgling franchise. And I think a lot of us, second favourite team. We love that team. Loser, the Crusaders, 0-2 after 2 rounds. The perennial winners are cellar dwellers right now. They're level with the Rebels. Not often you ever get to say that in Super Rugby and get to say it seriously. Winner, the English Premier League. Last gasp finishes, title race in full swing, drama, tension, crazy wild ends to games, a bona fide 3-team title race every weekend. It just seems to get better and better. It is one of the best sporting leagues in the world. They don't need magic rounds. They don't need to manufacture super rounds. They don't need to take it to Las Vegas. It happens every weekend in that competition anyway. Loser, defence in Super Rugby. Brilliant attack, so many tries, but so many points per game. It was like watching basketball scores getting racked up, which also means an obvious lack of defence. Basketball scores are okay, but so is tackling, if some of the coaches would like to remind their players. Winner, the Aussie cricketers. Too good, just too good. We slit our own throats when we played them. We all know that. But you can put all the excuses you like around that Black Caps performance. So much potential, but the result just always seems inevitable. Winner, Test cricket at the Basin, though. Does it get any better? One of the sport's great venues. It's amongst the best anywhere in the world. The Lords of the South Pacific. It is a perfect ground for Test cricket. Loser, F1, the Bahrain GP. And there in one race is the whole season. Sport needs competition. It needs the unknown. It needs the possibility that something unexpected may happen. The sport is killing itself by the excellence of one team and one driver. But what do? except eat Verstappen's dust. Has this year already been lost? He is so dominant. It is a repeat of the last three, and through no fault of Red Bull or the driver himself. But it is just boring for everyone else that is not associated with that team. Loser. Super Rugby O-Picky. Census pig! I'll say it out loud because I'll be the only one in the sports media who does. How much longer do we all keep pretending that this comp is professional? Because if it truly is, then it also must economically survive, which it can't. If you thought the Super Rugby round crowds were bad, then at least they had some. The Emperor has no clothes on. And very sadly, O-Picky crowds are none. They're none. Winner, the NRL is back, and oh, how we missed it. Vegas, baby. The whole show, the shenanigans, the hype, the hoopla, the manufactured showpiece aside, the two games were brilliant to watch, kickstarting the campaign, winners, Manly, and the Roosters. You miss the NRL, don't you? That's the great thing about the NRL, you miss it. Loser, the Black Caps. What more needs to be said? We play Aussie, we crap the bed. This is what it's like being a Wallabies rugby fan playing the All Blacks. That is what it must feel like. When you go to play the All Blacks, you just think, it's the All Blacks. We might win 1 out of 10. We might. And winner, Las Vegas. Viva Sin City. Look, it's not going to footmark the sport in the United States, and don't even get started on that argument. Rugby league is not going to take over in the US. But it's a great gimmick. It's a great way to start the show. And even better, it is an absolutely brilliant trip if you can get on it, and for everyone who did.
Devlin.
What do you want? We want information. Information. You won't get it.
The platform.
Lachlan, headlines?
Where to start? A fair bit to cover. I'll start off actually with what has been a superb day for New Zealand at the World Athletics Indoor Championships in Glasgow, which started off with Hamish Kerr winning gold in the high jump. A superb leap by him to have a world-leading mark of, I think it was 2.36 metres. I'm just trying to find this article in One News doesn't actually have the measurement, but I'll just get to that in a sec. But 2.36 metres, I believe, was the mark he managed to get. Following that was Geordie Beamish, the Kiwi runner, who, thanks to a late burst, managed to win gold as well. His was the 1,500-metre race. Yes, it was 2.36 metres. Hamish Kerr's time, which has shattered the New Zealand record, equalled the Oceania record, and set a world lead. What a performance from Hamish Kerr. NRL yesterday kicked off in Vegas. Two brilliant games on. Started off with the Manly Seagulls up against the South Sydney Rabbitohs. The Seagulls winning that one 36-26, the final score. 36-24. The Roosters, after that, beating the Broncos 20 points to 10. The main storyline, though, around the NRL games in Vegas at the moment is a racial slur that was apparently said by Spencer Leniu of the Roosters towards Broncos playmaker Ezra Mam. I won't say the word that Mam accuses Leniu of calling him, but following the game, there was an official protest lodged, if you will, during the game. Following the game, Brisbane players confronted Roosters forward Leniu in the corridors of the team hotel in Vegas just hours after the accusation from Ezra Mam. So more bubbled over following the match. As well as that, he has been officially charged by the NRL. This just on the Daily Telegraph website in Australia. So Spencer Leniu's been charged for what he has said, which if you watch the post-match interview he did with Triple M Radio, he doesn't deny it. He describes it as fun and games. And there's nothing in it. So that pretty much confirms it. It's he said it. That's all I can really say. The Wellington Phoenix are still on top of the A-League table. A brilliant win yesterday over Adelaide United in Wellington. Entertaining match, 3-2 they won. They were up 3-1 at one point. So that lead for them on top of the table now sits at 3 points. Still, should I say, not now. Ahead of the Central Coast Mariners. The Phoenix now unbeaten in 10 straight games, I believe it is. And they've been on top of the table since about mid-January. So this roll they're on just continues. Premier League this morning, couple of games on. One noteworthy game being Manchester City and Manchester United. Manchester derby. Brilliant goal from Marcus Rashford early on, Marty, but that was cancelled out by 3 goals for City. Geez, you guys were up 1-0 at half-time as well.
Yeah, no great surprise.
I had no interest in this game. I wasn't going to get up to watch it. But Phil Foden getting a double and then Haaland scoring in the 91st minute. Man City winning 3-1. So that means that the lead at the top of the table for Liverpool remains 1 point. They won earlier in the weekend against Nottingham Forest with a late winner. Liverpool on top, 63 points. Man City second, 62. Arsenal third on 58, but Arsenal do play tomorrow morning. The other game earlier today, Bournemouth beating Burnley 2-0 on the road. Terrible season for Burnley. It just keeps going and going and going. There's no limit for either them or Sheffield United at the moment. Both teams just really struggling at the bottom of the table. Just surfing the websites. I mean, we had Formula 1. That race sort of took place overnight on Saturday, so not really newsy, but Max Verstappen winning there again for Red Bull, the first race of the season. I mean, there's nothing new with Formula 1 over the last couple of years. Super Rugby Pacific, Magic Round over this weekend. Actually, because it was Magic Round, there were a couple of games on yesterday afternoon. It started off with the Chiefs up against the Brumbies in a match that people probably thought this could be kind of close. Maybe, Brumbies could give them a run for their money, the Chiefs here, but no. 46 points to 12, the final margin for the Chiefs. They start the season off 2-0. The Hurricanes played the Reds straight after in what turned out to be a cracking game. The Hurricanes, it went to Golden Point, didn't it? Hurricanes scoring a try in Golden Point and winning that one 38-33. In terms of the Super Rugby table, Chiefs on top. The Hurricanes and the Blues all on 9 points. So they're the only teams with 2 wins. All 3 Kiwi teams, and they've all got 1 bonus point. But points difference has the Chiefs on top. Not much in it, though. They've got plus 38, Hurricanes plus 35, Blues plus 32. The Reds sit 4th, Highlanders 5th, Brumbies 6th, Rebels, Waratahs, Moana Pacifica, Crusaders, Fijian and Drua, Western Force. And for the time being, Martin, that's what's making news.
Devlin.
That is a disgusting act.
The platform.
Rugby, Super Rugby round number 2 out of Melbourne. It was a super round, the sports equivalent of the Magic round. Not so, unless, of course, whoever it was with the wand in their hand made the crowd disappear. I mean, we can all make cheap jokes about this, but it's so goddamn disappointing, isn't it? I thought the rugby was crackerjack over the weekend. Probably the defensive coaches of most teams will disagree, though, because there was an average of 68 points scored per game. There are some basketball scores racked up there. Justin Marshall joins us as he does every Monday to talk about it. Let's look at the Crusaders to start with. Your old mob losing to the Waratahs. What do we read into that?
Well, not an ideal start is what we read into it. So obviously losing their first round game against the Chiefs away quite significantly. It's a home game for the Crusaders. So we all know that banking your home games is important. Now, obviously with it being Super Round being played in Melbourne, you kind of are stuck with that situation. There's nothing you can do about it. But equally, you've got to have the mindset that if you do drop it, it's a significant one because it means that you're losing a home game. So it's put them under pressure, no doubt about it. We did chat last week and I was impressed with the performance of the Crusaders to the point that I thought they could have almost snuck the game against the Chiefs, but not so impressed with the performance this weekend. Clunky, knock-ons regularly, a couple of intercepts, missed opportunities. They just looked a bit out of sorts, to be honest.
Yeah, is it much of a worry or not? Or is this just teething problems at the start of the competition? Because last year they didn't start that flash either.
No, they didn't. It's a slight worry. It's not massively concerning. I still think they've got the firepower. I still feel that they're a side that show enough that they can be there around the business end of the tournament. However, you've got to find your mojo quickly. And the thing that concerned me out of both performances was, in the first half against the Chiefs, they were out of sorts, and then they finally went a bit more direct and got their game plan in order. They weren't able to bully the Waratahs, and that was the big question that when we talked to Marty, you and I, and you asked me about the Aussie teams, and I said, well, unless they front up physically in the scrum and in the line-out, in particular, they won't compete against New Zealand sides. Well, the Crusaders brought on their big guns and couldn't shove the Waratahs scrum around. They didn't really win many penalties. Their line-out got picked off regularly and was under pressure. So that's concerning. That in areas they're usually really, really assured and don't miss a beat, they were off, and that's concerning because that's usually a strength of the Crusaders, that they just regularly front up in that zone.
Yeah, okay, all right. Let's tick the Waratahs box because they deserve it. I mean, every team that scores 37 points against the defending champs, you can't take that away from them. And go immediately to what I was watching last night, Hurricanes versus Reds. And as I said, Justin, I was just about I was just about to fall off the couch with surprise, thinking, my God, the Aussies have done us to cricket. They've done us to us in the rugby. If the Reds had won that game, it would have been 2-1 to them in terms of Super Rugby over the weekend. But I watched a Reds side that did physically front last night as well. So, is in terms of Australian rugby, for everyone who actually wants them to be strong and wants them to get physical, are those two good examples that maybe that they're... I mean, don't talk about the Brumbies, we'll talk about them, but maybe that those two sides are a bit better than what we originally thought.
Yeah, well, they certainly did compete, didn't they? And, we got two really quality games out of it as well, which was something that, we're really, really pleased with, because we were wondering about whether or not, that they were going to be able to compete, whether or not we're going to see contests, and we absolutely did. And I think that's really clear now that physically they have got the message that they need to front up in that zone. That's not just scrum and line out, that's a breakdown as well. That's in defence, tackling, hitting hard and knocking back attackers. And, I certainly thought that both the Reds and the Waratahs fronted big time in that zone, and hopefully they can do that when they come to New Zealand, because it's a different environment, and usually when they travel, they don't travel well. But if they can bring that energy, let's not write the Reds off. They were very good last year and did make it into the finals. So, it'll be interesting to see how their season plays out, but encouraging so far.
Justin Marshall with the 81 Test veteran of the All Blacks. We're talking about the Super Round. We'll talk about the crowds and the lack of in a second. Kicking it off, the Highlanders and the Blues. Cracking game on Friday night. This Blues side, 2 out of 2. Okay, they've beaten the Endrua. Is it a concern that they conceded 29 points, or is that more of a tick for the Highlanders?
A bit of both, I think. It's a valid point that you make, that, good sides, they are able to score points, and when they look good, they are very good. And, line breaks and quality players across the park, when you've got a squad on a side like that, then you're going to accumulate points. But what you don't want to do is easily allow the opposition to accumulate points as well. Great teams historically, and in all forms of sport, are very good at defending. And I certainly feel that you want to be a little bit concerned that you are leaking points, albeit you can do that when you've got the game in control, when you switch off for a little bit. But, yeah, absolutely. I think the fact that they are a quality attacking side, defensively, they'll come up to it, I think, when they come up against tougher opposition, more so in the tournament. But a lot of credit also has to go to this Highlanders side, because they've got some real genuine attacking threats, and they will test defences in this competition, and they will score their fair share of points. So still encouraging for them. And again, Blues 2-0, that's all you wanted out of it, and they've managed to get the two results and get themselves right up the top of the log.
Well, the three teams at the top of the table, unbeaten, 2 wins out of 2, all New Zealand sides, Chiefs, Hurricanes and Blues. And you can't ignore that Chiefs win over the Brumbies. Yes, it's a home game, but being played at the neutral venue, did you expect more from the Brumbies than to get pantsed 46-12?
Yes, I did. I absolutely did. But they were quite clearly outclassed. What I was so impressed with was the tempo, pace and energy that the Chiefs brought to this fixture. They were obviously out on a mission to really test this Brumbies defence and see how long they can hold on. And as we saw right from the opening exchanges, they couldn't hold on for long. And it was just the pace that they couldn't handle, and the energy, the skill set, the line breaks, the method as well, like the creativity, the long ball over the line out to McKenzie, inside to Nano Saturo, and then back to McKenzie. Now that's thinking man's rugby. That's real impressive to watch. And the way they constructed some of their tries down the blind side, their attack was just sensational. Yes, the Brumbies were bloody disappointing, but honestly, any team that came up against a side like that with that type of attitude would have struggled on the evening, that's for sure, because the Chiefs were just so very good.
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. Moan. I'm moaning sick all the time. Oh, it's Monday. I got a moan on, all right. I got a moan on. Super Rugby's Magic Round in Melbourne. It's called the Super Round. It's the Super Rugby equivalent of the NRL Magic Round. Henceforth, to be named, the Melbourne Doesn't Give a Stuff About Rugby Round, because that's what it actually really is. Great games, tick. Upsets all over the show, tick. Heaps of tries scored, tick. but no one there to see it again. And that again comes back to the fishheads who run the sport and run this comp. Remember Mark Robinson, NZR CEO, last year with all the fan-centric and fan engagement guff? Well, where is it, mate? How's that all working again? What exactly are you doing to make this happen apart from nothing? Apart from constantly standing there saying those words. The big launch with all the captains 2 weeks ago, he once again dribbled all this diatribe about fan this and fan that and reconnecting to the rugby fan base tribe. It's all just words. It's all just management speak cliche crap. And that's been kind. Clearly, these people believe if they keep saying something long enough, then it's just magically going to happen. No, that's not how it works. You have to have a plan, marketing. You've got to have a strategy, implementation of all of the above. Talk is just that. Talking isn't doing. And once again, this showpiece round, this showcase of the sport, its teams and the best talent falls flatter than the pitch that they play on. Super Rugby, and that's you, New Zealand Rugby, just don't have a clue. You don't know what you're doing. So much for the super round, so much for the magic. The only true magic trick is at the end of the comp, the Rebels are going to completely disappear.
Devlin,
I'm as mad as hell, and I'm not going to take this anymore.
the platform.
Oh, good God, the cricket. Yeah, I know. What do you say? I mean, there are just so many excuses I've seen trotted out over the last 24 hours. If they hadn't scored 110 runs for the last wicket, yeah, they did. If we had read the pitch right, no, we didn't. If Nathan Lyon wasn't bowling, well, he was. If we hadn't dropped all those catches, well, we did. It's just so goddamn disappointing, isn't it? But even worse than that, just so predictable. It's Australia. It's just what we do. Rahul, a day later. Let me hear the disappointment.
Oh, Marty, where do I start? Can I just tell you that yesterday morning I was a bit late to reach the stadium. That's because my wife's in Auckland and I was taking both my girls to the cricket and I had them all hyped up to say, hey, we are going to see something special unfold at the Basin Reserve today. I parked my car on Kent Terrace and at that time I saw you text me on Twitter asking me how is this all going to unfold because I'm catching a flight from Dunedin. And I said, one of these two, Rachin Ravindra or Daryl Mitchell, are going to be batting when you get off your flight with Tom Blundell. The time it took me to walk from Kent Terrace to the stadium, Rachin was gone. The time it took me to get my bags checked by the security and get inside the stadium, Tom Blundell was gone. The time it took me to walk from the steps and find my seat in the RA1 stand and sit down with my girls and settle down, Glenn Phillips was walking back. And that there just sums up the terrible day that it was for the Black Caps yesterday.
Glenn Phillips saying the night before, or was it the night before that the Black Caps were confident of chasing down 350 or 400. I laughed out loud when I read that. I just thought, what, on a spinning track with Nathan Lyon at the other end? Did we conspire to lose this test, or were they just too good for us?
I think... Look, I've got a slightly different take on this, and I think this game was lost even before we entered the park. It's fine to lose to a team that plays better than you on the day. What in this day and age is not acceptable is to be defeated outside the cricket ground even before the game starts. And by that I mean that if you don't plan right, then you are planning to fail. Everybody's been talking about team selections, and 2 test matches in a row, we've read the pitch absolutely wrong. And we are not playing away from home. We're playing at home, and we are unable to read our own pitches. That just tells you that there's not been any thought put into what can happen on the surface. Last year, when there was a test played at the Basin against England, Jack Leach took 8 wickets in the game. Not 1, not 2, not 3, 8 wickets. A left-arm spinner taking 8 wickets at the Basin, and yet we turn up and play 4 fast bowlers. And this is not the first time. We saw what happened in Hamilton. A third C-grade South African side, with all the respect to them, played 2 spinners. They read that pitch right, but we at home couldn't. And it just puts a whole lot of question marks around, are we really thinking and going into games, or are we just turning up? And if you just turn up, international teams will defeat you in 3 days or 3 days and a quarter of the fourth day, like we saw at the Basin Reserve.
Rahul Patil is with us, provided such magnificent coverage last year, the one-day World Cup. He's a guy that was at the Basin, every single ball, every single session. 383 in the first innings for them, 179 in reply, 164 and then 196 for us. So 3 out of the 4 innings, nobody could bat 200. I go back to that first day, 279 for 9, and that 110 last wicket partnership put on. Was that the killer then? If we'd managed to secure that wicket then, because you look at it in the end, it's 172 runs and that was 110 of them.
Yeah, I mean, various points. We had them 89 for 4, 177 for 6 in that first innings. That 110-run partnership. Look, freak things happen in cricket. But what for me was disappointing was the fact that as soon as that partnership started growing, we had no plan B or plan C. We were turning up with our fast bowlers and bowling into the wicket, and those two were playing them so easily, but we just had nothing else to throw at them. We brought Rachin very late into the attack. We did not bowl Glenn Phillips at all in the first innings. And this is when a tail-ender and a batsman who was well set put on over 100 runs. So that is just, and then Glenn Phillips turns up and picks up 5 wickets in the second innings. So it just goes to show that at points in this game, we were just going through the motions, and that's just not good enough, on an international stage. Now, we also, in the second inning, Nathan Lyon turns up and scores 41 runs. So in the same game, a number 10, a guy who normally bats number 10 and a guy who normally bats number 11 have come and scored runs against us. Small things, but it just goes to show that, we had one plan, and if that didn't work, we were just always on the losing end.
Vegas, baby. Viva Las Vegas. Is the NRL going to overtake that town, that country, and become cemented in their sporting psyche? Probably not. But in terms of a promotion, you got to say it's absolutely brilliant. It's a great gimmick. Get on it. Be part of it. Who wouldn't want to take a weekend in Vegas to go and watch their favourite NRL side? Daryl Halligan, watching back home with his expert eye on the performances of all 4 teams. DJ, she's up and underway, mate. League, the NRL is back. I thought they were 2 cracking games yesterday. What'd you think?
Oh, it's fantastic. I love and sort of got into the Las Vegas sort of opening of the NRL for this year, and the fact they're going to do it for the next 5. So it was great. Good pace. A few mistakes in the second half cost both teams the games. But I love the way the American sort of like comment on the game has come back. So sort of getting around a few articles here this morning, and they said, okay, so it was no pads, no helmets, no fears. He said, but it looked like it was just a human cockfighting exhibition, so like 2 chickens coming at each other from each side of the cage, and then they've sort of written, one Bunnies player is choking someone. Is this normal? Oh, there's another player bleeding, and then at the end it's just gone. It was chaos, but it was fun.
Well, look, I enjoy the gimmicky side of it because, anything where, you spend a bit of time, spend a bit of money and try and hoopla and try and hype it up and try and promote it is great. But, I'll still maintain, and I'll be the Grinch that says in 5 years' time, it's not taking over American sport. Just applaud and appreciate it for what it is, okay?
Oh, yeah, it would be hard to argue that, wouldn't it, that it would take over American sport. But the spectacle is fantastic. The next step here in Australia is that saying, just because it was played under a big roof and everything, because it was raining and windy outside, the spectacle was so much better. So now we're all going to get some roofs on our stadiums here in Australia. Like, okay, that's going to happen soon as well.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
It was fantastic. I mean, we can critique it, but as a player, I guess you would have loved to have been up there,
of course,
and had a crack there. And maybe our Wars get an opportunity next year if it's not too much of a distraction for them. And I see Robbo's come out and suggested that if the case is they wouldn't mind going as well. So Yeah, no, I think it's a great way to spark it up and get it going. So it was good.
Yeah, and I'm sure all 17 teams will put their hands up and say, hey, we want to go. The stat that impressed me the most out of all of it was I think something like 14,000 people flew in from Brisbane. So, you give people the opportunity to go to Las Vegas for the weekend, and we all know it's a great place to go and have a party, isn't it? And you throw a couple of league games in as well. I mean, it's just... Look, you compare that to the Super Rugby round in Melbourne, and bless Super Rugby because it was a great game, great round, great games of rugby and everything, but nobody's there. And so the promotional aspect is a really integral part of it, and you got to get it right. And I think Peter V'landys and everyone did get it right. What it means in terms of the globalisation of the sport, I'll always argue, look, that's not going to happen. But just in terms of the actual event, I applaud them, and I think, yeah, you got it done, and 2 good games were played. And in the end, those 2 winners, what are we meant to take out of the fact that Manly upset the Rabbitohs and that the Roosters dealt to the Broncos?
Yeah, the Rabbitohs, I was a little bit disappointed in their defence, actually, with how, they got taken apart during the game, and some simple stuff like marker defence where, Manly explored. Luke Brooks was good for Manly, really kicked on in the second half, and, there's been a lot written about Luke Brooks and his move away from the Tigers after so long there, and playing second fiddle in a way to Cherry Evans. So is that the recipe for some success for Manly for this year? People on the northern beaches here would obviously, hope to think that. But is it just a flash in the pan? There was some really, really good signs from the Roosters. I mean, Joey Manu was just absolutely outstanding. And he can rip you apart, Joey, just single-handedly with a little step and the shuffle and a fend away, and then he'll offload the ball to the winger and the winger will score, and you've got a try that's come out of nothing. So there were some really, really good points about the game. Like winning those games to suggest that the competition is really, really even, and we're going to get a contest in every battle this year.
Yeah, that Roosters side, a lot of pundits picking them. I mean, it's too early game 1, obviously. I mean, they're always a contender, aren't they? But, just in terms of that top 3, Broncos, Storm and Panthers, the great thing is we get to see the Storm and Panthers this Friday night. So, but it is round 1. We just got to temper it with that, don't we?
Oh, for sure. And so, you could run a line through, Penrith's trip away to the World Club Challenge didn't go all that well for them. So they start the season off with a negative experience, and you don't often, have them go back to back. But are they the team that actually, has ruled the competition for the last 3 to 4 years? 3 comps, 4 grand finals. No Stephen Crichton this year. Does one player make the difference, or does a couple? You take the edge, a couple of sparks out of the side, and is that the difference in the game? So look, I just think the talent's really well spread throughout the competition. And so in the early games, you're going to see some results that you might not have picked a little bit later in the season. Do the Roosters fit into that category? Generally, no, because they sort of batted at the top of the comp for the last couple of years outside of the last 2. But their halves are the key, aren't they, really? Questions on Tedesco being old, Carey, and also Sammy Walker in the halves haven't really combined over the last couple of years through injuries, and Walker spent some time in reserve grade last year. So the spine is still a work in progress for the Roosters, and that includes, I guess you could say, Brandon Smith at 9 as well. So the Roosters, chock-a-block full of talent, but can they click?
The Tight 5.
5 separate sporting topics. We might do 6, we might do 7. Bugger it, it's Monday, it's howling with rain outside. What are we going to do except talk sport all afternoon? Stay with us then. When this happens, we'll move on to the next topic, Lachlan, but not bloody before. The racial slur. Calling somebody a monkey. No. The Vegas trip. Look, if you were on it, I can understand why you were pouring treacle all over the sugar with the custard base and the profiteroles, and then you can't have gushed more if you work for Fox Sport. It got nauseating in the end. I had to turn it off in the end. I was waiting to see the league. Look, I know it's a brilliant experience, it's a great trip and all of that, but you're not taking over American sport, mate. And we all know that. Super Rugby, Super Round, great matches of rugby, no crowd, Lachlan. Hamish Kerr and Geordie Beamish. Well, that's just brilliant, isn't it? From the World Indoor Track and Field Champs today. Sevens in LA. Oh, so that's where the Super Rugby crowd is locked. They're all at the Sevens. Oh no, they're not. We'll keep you updated anyway. Our women are about to play the final.
That was quite good.
I don't know what happened to the men, but they didn't. And the farmers market in Dunners on Saturday morning. I was in Dunners for my son's 21st. I want to talk about the farmers market in Dunners. But let's talk about the racial slur because this is topic du jour. Spencer Leniu, again, post-match. He's the guy that called Ezra Mam a monkey. Now, you can say allegedly, you can say apparently. He did do it.
Doesn't deny it.
Tell you what, Spencer, you're an idiot then, as well as a fool. Because if you honestly think that there's nothing wrong with that, man, you're about to find out very clearly that there is. The fact that the Broncos players had words to say to you in the hotel, and apparently he was held back by the media manager, Spencer. So that's a great reaction from your pal, isn't it, eh? You look like an angry guy, and the reaction post-match to say that it's fun and games, you're very naive. Let me put it politely, you're very naive. I could say stupid, but I'll use the word naive. You're going to cop it, and you're going to get 4 weeks, mate.
I hope he does.
And you deserve it.
And he's already been charged, or he's preparing to front the judiciary, so you'll get and look.
Honestly, look, he got hit by a motorbike on the way to the game. He's been shoplifting. He's depressed. Yeah. There's something going on there, isn't there?
No, he was the motorbike.
You know, there'll be all kinds of excuses made about childhood trauma and everything else.
Yeah.
Look, the fact that, especially if he was in New Zealand facing this, but
like if it was an Indigenous or an Aboriginal person who was saying, I'm not saying it makes it right, but is it fair to say? Look, there's two white people talking about this, but is it fair to say that it's less offensive than if he's not Aboriginal saying it to Ezra Mam?
I don't know. Because I'm not black and I'm not brown. So, you know, when somebody racially abuses me, you white honky bastard or whatever it is, it doesn't affect me in any way whatsoever.
I don't
do it as many times as you like. I don't care. Because I get more offended when I'm, you know, you smear my Catholic religion or my Celtic heritage or something like that, you know. But I've never, as a white person, I just don't get that, and I've never grown up like that, so I don't know. I don't know what it feels like, and I bet it feels bloody terrible. I bet it feels awful. To have somebody make some kind of remark to you because
the colour of your skin.
The colour of your skin. I mean,
and particularly when you've probably grown up having experienced it for most of your life.
I mean, it's revolting, mate. I mean, I feel, and Ezra Mam, you've got every right to be as upset as you want to be about this. Yeah. And Spencer, dude, I'm not saying you're a bad man. You're just an idiot at the moment.
Yeah, there's one thing that is just so it's gross. That's the best word I can think to describe it. Is the type of people that really surface when something like this goes on. You see the comments on social media.
Oh, it's awful.
And look, I don't want to sound like I'm generalising too much, but a lot of the time it is older men who just say, "Oh, toughen up. That's part of the game. Oh, you know, that's part of rugby league. Oh, if you're insulted by that, then stop playing the game." It's like, no, this is pretty black and white. Pun not intended, but you know that you can't say stuff like that.
No, you can't.
And if you're going to sit there and say that, you know, oh, it's in the heat of the moment, it's fine and whatnot. To me, it's non-negotiable.
Learn some self-control.
Yeah. It's racist, it's disgusting.
You're going to get 4 weeks, which is what Montoya got. And
you should get more. I think you should get more.
All right.
You should absolutely get more. If Montoya got 4 weeks, he should get more than that.
5050 on the text. I'd love to know what you think about the Vegas trip, though. The hype and the hoopla and the hoopla and the hype.
Big
and so much
success.
Yeah. Look, I said it at the start of the show, and I'll keep saying it. I think this is a great idea. And because anything that creates another point of difference, adds to the excitement, it is naturally going to be a big shiny thing that you want to go and have a look at. It's in Vegas, right? Now, every team is lining up. They took every CEO over there. They took, every chairman of the board. So all the CEOs are going to be wanting their teams there. The fact that almost 20,000 people flew in from Australia is absolutely brilliant. This, again, to me, points back to rugby. You don't think that taking an All Black test to Fiji would not do the same for that economy, that there wouldn't be 10,000 fans from New Zealand who would have taken it.
Actually, to be fair, the logic around what you're saying there about Vegas, isn't that the same as what NZR's doing with this test in San Diego?
Not really.
No? You sure?
Yeah. I mean, is San Diego party town?
No. That's the thing, actually. If they'd taken the NRL matches to San Diego, Los Angeles, it would have gotten lost.
A complete joke. Yeah. I mean, the whole thing with Vegas is it's Viva Las Vegas. But what I just want to make about this is that the way that the NRL were carrying on, you think that they'd splice DNA. The reality is you booked some accommodation, got the hotels organised, booked a venue that wasn't being used at that particular time, Because if you're damn sure if there was an ice hockey game going on with the Vegas Golden Knights or any other sport booked, you wouldn't have got the venue. And you made it happen. The NFL truck teams over to Germany and London every year. Okay? Premier League teams go to Europe to play the Champions League or they go to play the World Cup Championships. It's just called logistics. You got it organised and you pulled it off. Brilliant.
Yeah.
But, you haven't built the Eiffel Tower here. No. All you've done is just take a couple of teams to Vegas. It's a great promotion. Yeah. But you're not going to conquer American sport.
No, and they are teetering. They don't bluntly or blatantly say it, but they're teetering on the edge of saying, we think we can take on the NFL and baseball. They're like, we want to get American viewership. And I saw a lot of it. I mean, Twitter's a terrible representation of regular society, but I saw some stuff on Twitter of like Americans talking about how much they enjoyed it and loved it. And this is probably because of my algorithm that my Twitter is mainly just sports. And that's cool and that's nice. But really, the main benefit is because the majority of the people there were Australians or New Zealanders or associated with the clubs. Yeah. So in terms of organic, proper American fans who saw it and went, oh, I want to go to that, I don't think there were that many. It's a guess. It's a guess. So thus, what are you doing? You're helping the local economy, not that Vegas needs it.
Doesn't need it.
And so then what are you actually achieving with this?
You're just putting on a big sparkly light show, like a fireworks display, and everyone's going, isn't that fantastic?
Yeah. But then it's going to get to about 3, 4, 5. I mean, the Nines kind of did this. It got to about 3 or 4, 5 years. The interest was gone, and then you had to get to a point where you're actually making money out of it.
Yeah, well, okay.
And the NRL isn't going to get to that point because it's got to cost them so much to head over there with flights, accommodation, all that stuff, hiring out the stadium. And then they're going to get to a point where they go, oh, we actually aren't selling enough tickets.
Look, I thought it was great. I actually thought, what I didn't think was great was what the Black Caps pulled out at the Basin Reserve. And you can come out with every excuse in the world. Look, maybe we should have bowled them all out for 270 or 279 or whatever it was on the first day. We didn't. We let them get away with it with another 100 runs, did we not? That was probably the telling of the Test match because Travis Head scored 174. It was just about the total of the second innings effort from us and the second innings effort from Australia and our first innings effort. 3 innings, under 200 runs. So that first innings was the basis upon which they won. Our bowling was pedestrian at best. Okay, the second innings, but they collapsed like we collapsed. Not being able to read the pitch, pick a spinner, all of that kind of stuff. But also, we kind of, we're the authors of our own destiny with a lot. When you need to batten the hatches and play hard, look at the way that Tim Southey, the captain, came in at the end there, Lachlan. There was no attempt at all to even try and save the Test match.
No, the way he got out.
Wogs at everything, And it's just like he's just given it up for the go. So, yeah, terribly disappointing after all the build-up and hype where we beat a G South African team. What it means is that we're a joke when it comes to playing Australia, isn't it? That's what it is. And we can talk it up and we can talk up the Boxing Day Test in 3 years' time and everything else.
Geez, we're lucky we've got that test lined up because after this, because I can't imagine we're going to show anything in this Christchurch test. So assuming even if that's a draw and they win this series, if we didn't have this series lined up against them in a few years' time to do the Boxing Day test, why on earth would they? That was my first thought. Because I was cooking some breakfast tomorrow morning, I had it on, and when we got out, we were dismissed and the test was over. I just stood there and I was with a few friends, I said, this is why they don't play us. If you're them, why would you keep doing it? It's kind of like the All Blacks with the Wallabies, I'm sure. If the All Blacks keep dicking these, and the gap between the All Blacks and the Wallabies gets wider.
And then you just chop it down from 3 tests to 2 tests. You make it 1 test. You make it 1 test every 2 years. We'll play you when you're better.
Yeah,
okay?
Exactly.
Super Rugby, again, great sport, no crowd. Yeah. So all this bollocks about fan-centricness and all of that fan engagement stuff. Mark Robinson, you're not even there. You're at some meeting.
Yeah.
You're at a meeting at the IRB World Rugby somewhere in Dublin. So you can't even be asked turning up, mate. And neither could anyone else. And this is what you're saying about the Vegas thing. Is it going to end up like this? Although the thing with the Super Rugby round in Melbourne is it hasn't taken off at all.
No.
This is where you can...
Super Rugby's not taking off.
There is no better example of rugby administrators with their heads up their own backsides than the Super round in Melbourne. Look, the teams were great. The games were good.
It was a good product.
And I
didn't watch
the promotion of it and the decision to take it to Melbourne is just a farce.
Well, I thought this when you were speaking to Justin, just quickly. So the Rebels aren't going to exist beyond this season.
Won't.
So then why would they take it to Melbourne? There's no team there.
No, that's right.
So then from next year it'll be somewhere else.
No, it's not. I think they signed a contract for 3 or 4 years.
So when Melbourne doesn't have a team, they're still going to take it?
Yeah, they'll still take it.
Why?
Because they're morons, mate. They make moronish decisions. Hamish Kerr, Geordie Beamish, Yahoo to both.
Yeah, Yahoo.
I don't know what it means in terms of the Olympics, but right now...
Well, they've got 2 gold medals.
There you go.
If you get a gold medal in any sort of world champs or Olympics, good on you.
That'll do me. Sevens in LA. Well, move on.
No, you watched a good game yesterday, didn't you? Was it
Spain beat Fiji? I watched the end of that. Yeah, but that was only for 5 minutes. I just want to say the Farmers Market in Dunedin, what a brilliant place to go on a Saturday morning in Dunedin. Beautiful weather, 25 degrees. I'm not joking, every day. It was like a bloody tropical holiday. Okay? I mean, if you could dial up that Dunedin for 200 days a year, well, the only problem is half the North Island would move there. But I saw 3 Warriors jerseys walking around at that Farmers Market, right? Not a Super Rugby jersey in sight, not an All Blacks jersey in sight, 3 Warriors jerseys. My only point I want to make about this is New Zealand Rugby, wake up. It's starting to become more than a coincidence. Everywhere you go in New Zealand, I'm seeing Warriors jerseys being worn by all kinds of people, right?
Yep.
That club has done something to connect. There it is, sitting in front of you. F1. Bahrain, the season underway, and once again, Red Bull and Max Verstappen just making a mockery of the rest of the field. 22 seconds he won by. The biggest talking point, though, may not be on the track. It might still be off the track with Christian Horner and the allegations, the investigation, and now Jos Verstappen, Max father, stepped into this. It won't go away. Our man is Vincenzo Landino. He works in Formula One commercial partnerships out of the US. His thoughts on the whole thing. The big elephant in the room is Christian Horner, and now Jos Verstappen, Max's father, has come out and said that he's tearing the pit lane apart. Is this over in terms of those allegations and investigation, or is this going to keep going?
I think we might. This is going to linger quite a bit. You know, I don't know if you saw the latest aspect of this, but there was a report in the BBC that came out and said that the president of the FIA actually asked Max Verstappen to publicly take Horner's side. So now you've got the FIA involved in something that maybe they shouldn't be, or at least taking a side on something they shouldn't be. I personally do not want to see anybody taken down for the sake of being taken down, especially if they're not being given the due process of the situation, which I think there's a lot of court of public opinion right now. We don't know exactly what happened with Horner. There's a lot of allegations. There's a lot of speculation. But I think this is going to linger. And there's clearly a power struggle within Red Bull at the moment. You have Christian Horner. You have Max Verstappen. You have Helmut Marko. Jos has a voice because he's Max Verstappen's father. So he's got some sort of power there. And then you have the big gaping hole left open by, Dietrich's death that I think is creating a lot of this turmoil, right? There's nobody there to steer the ship or control, takes the reins. And so this could linger for quite a while, whether or not, anyone likes it. But it'll be interesting over the next few days or so leading up to, our next race, if F1 steps in or, if FIA steps in and either takes over an investigation or decides they're going to investigate further, because this is not only tarnishing, this is not only hurting Christian Horner and his family, but it's potentially also hurting the person that made the accusation, if there was one. It's also hurting Red Bull's reputation. It's also hurting F1's reputation. So there's a lot of reputations being involved now, and I think that's where they need to be concerned. And they need to be concerned in general. But if you're tarnishing a reputation that you're trying to build up right now, that's a lot to be worried about. And so I would like to think that someone's going to step in and say, we need to find out once and for all if this happened. If it did, we need to take the appropriate action. If it didn't, then we need to make, a firm statement that nothing happened and move on from it. Because if this is a lingering story all year, that's a really big black eye on the sport.
LBP, let's be positive. Matt Gunn every single Monday out of Twizel. So much to be positive about. Well, for him, starting with the cricket. But also we've got to get serious and talk about the racial slur from Spencer Leniu against Ezra Mam. It's not fun and games on the field, as Spencer tried to point out afterwards. Calling somebody a monkey is absolutely reprehensible. There's got to be a ban. And you've got to start with the 4 weeks that Montoya got for the Warriors a couple of seasons ago, for a homophobic slur. Surely that's exactly where you start, isn't it? Can't sweep this one under the carpet, NRL. It was there. It was audible. The complaint's been made. Matt Gunn out of Twizel. Yesterday, I jumped the plane in Dunedin. We were 3 wickets down. Time we landed, and it was a quick flight, 90 minutes to Auckland. It was game over. It was game over.
I was in Oamaru over the weekend. My daughter had another performance down there, and I thought I'll cruise back Sunday morning and watch the end of the game. And, of course, I got caught in the same manner. The game was over. 3 for 88, 4 for 89, 5 for 156, 6 for 176, 7 for 211. We ended up with nearly 400 runs. You gave the game away on day one, couldn't close it out. I thought you had us. And then it all just went downhill. And summed up really by the run out in the first innings of Kane Williamson. Faced 2 balls, run out for 0. And then Ravinda comes in, faces 3 balls, and he's out for no score. 179 in that return first innings. The game was always over there, Marty. And even though Aussies batted poorly in the second innings, more than enough runs to win by 170 plus. So a brilliant weekend.
Well, look, is there really any surprise? Look, the only parallel I keep saying that I can draw is when your Wallabies play our All Blacks. That's what it feels like. It just feels like it doesn't matter where you play, who plays, when you play, what time of year, what surface it's on. It doesn't matter. You're going to beat us at cricket.
Cam Green walks in. He's just been elevated to the number 4 position in the Australian side. They're crumbling all around him, and he goes on to make 174, Martin, on a pitch no one else could bat on. That's the thing about this Australian team, is you're never quite sure who it is that's going to stand up. Smith got a start, Khawaja got a start, but it was Green that went on with it, 174. He won the test. We only won by 172. Take him out of the game and it's nearly a draw. That's the best way to look at it for the Black Caps.
Yeah, but that's the thing. You always get somebody who does that, don't you? I mean, that's the whole point of it, isn't it? I mean, that's, yeah.
Well, then, of course, you've got Nathan Lyon comes in and takes 10.
Yeah, apart from that.
That doesn't hurt.
No.
That doesn't hurt either. You could see his eyes light up when he saw that pitch, and, he's just such a sensational bowler to continue to take 10-wicket bags like that. As I say, watching it on day one, I thought, we're gone. This is an absolute shocking start. And by the end of day 2, I'm thinking to myself, this is unlosable. It's unbelievable. Hey?
It's so miserable this end, mate. I mean, I'm looking at the Christchurch test and I'm saying, I just hope it rains for 5 days, mate. Because I don't give us a hope in hell. I really do. I don't give us a hope in hell now. What are we going to do?
Yeah.
Bring in another seamer trundling it at 126 Ks, mate? Play a spinner that hasn't been picked in New Zealand for the last 4 years? No.
Yeah, Christchurch could be interesting. Christchurch could be very interesting. You've got some injuries there. And, I mean, Wagner retires and then within days there's talk that he might unretire himself. Well, that's just ridiculous.
That would be brilliant because it would set a world record for the shortest retirement in any job in the history of retirement. The last topic has got to be about Spencer Leniu, who it's just fun and games on the field calling another player a monkey. Well, Spencer, if that's really where your head is at, you deserve the 4 to 8 weeks you're going to cop. Because remember, Montoya got 4 weeks for a homophobic slur, right? So, Spencer, You've already admitted that you did it by saying that you admitted that you did it. So that means the benchmark has got to be at least 4 weeks, does it not?
It's a bit of fun and games. It's just a laugh between the boys.
That's
not even an excuse anymore. You've just seen too many other people, and not just in rugby league, but in all sports. Any of these kind of slurs on the field, they're just not accepted. You just can't get away with it. It's absolutely mad. And to laugh about it, kind of thing, and say it's just a bit of banter out there. Well, clearly it's not banter to the bloke that reported him to the referee, is it?
And also the blokes that confronted him in the hotel afterwards. They're not happy about it either. If you're Aboriginal man...
It's pretty clear if he says he did it.
Yeah, and you're an Aboriginal man in Australia. You've gone your whole life where you're copping it. And, the racial abuse happens from the time you're born. The last place you expect it is from another guy on the opposition in a game of rugby league. And if this is where that guy Spencer Leniu's head is at, he needs to be re-educated about what goes on in life and also what is acceptable and what is not. If there was another player who was a Caucasian player saying that to him on the field, he'd be very upset about it, right?
Oh, yeah.
It's that simple.
Yeah.
That simple.
100%. There's no two ways about it. It's, it's this idea that it's just banter between the brothers, but you're not brothers. You know what I mean?
No, you're not. No.
Your competitors, you're looking for the edge. You know, for whatever reason, you've called the guy a monkey, not for no reason, but for some reason, whatever that might be, to try and gain an edge, to try and upset him, to try and get him off his game. Look, you don't call people monkeys on the field. It's pretty much that simple. You don't have sexual slurs about someone's proclivities, and you definitely look. Monkey's probably about as bad as you could go for, isn't it?
To hear the full interview, download the platform at the App Store. Via Platform Plus, you can go back and listen to the whole show and all of the interviews in full. That's our podcast for today. Thank you so much for listening. If you want to listen to the entire show 1 till 4 Monday to Friday, download the Platform app, and via Platform Plus you can go back and listen to whatever shows over however many weeks at your leisure, at your listening pleasure. Platform Plus. First thing to do though is download the Platform app.
Devlin.
Unbelievable. Incredible.
The Platform.